Okay, now the recording is progress. According to Zoom. Hey, Stephanie.
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
It is great to see you again.
So good to see you.
Actually, really, we haven't physically seen each other in person in quite a while. But I've seen you
in months. Yeah.
I've seen you at least two other times in this vein in just the last couple of months.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's been a really long time since in person.
Yeah, I think it was the end of 2020. Believe it or not.
Yeah,
That's
because
how
we
went,
were by my old apartment.
right? And we sat outside to have some tea and what have you. So it was toward the end of 2020.
Wow, so
That's
it's been
really,
over a year. No,
yeah,
we gotta fix that.
Yeah, that's really disgusting. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that after, because we know we're going to be running through schedules of concerts coming up and what have you. So
Absolutely.
anyway, I want to thank you again. You know how this goes. Thank you again for doing the episode. This is actually your third time on the Did You Know That channel, and which is a record so far.
Yay!
Yeah, by a factor of 3. And so we'll tell the good folks why you're here. But first, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Welcome to Did You Know That? ? The channel where I get to talk to interesting people about interesting and sometimes annoying topics. And today, I hope you're going to find it interesting, because this is another one in the series of our top of categories. And we'll tell you what we're going to be talking about. But first, I want to remind you, the subscribe button is somewhere below my finger, or it might be below Stephanie, somewhere over here. But please, thank you very much. Appreciate the help there. I would like you to hit that subscribe button with the bell so you get notified when new content becomes available. And if you're curious, go check out some of the previous episodes, because they're all really good. And you should check out Stephanie's other 2 episodes, because those were a lot of fun. All right, now that the pleasantries are out of the way, my name is Sean O'Rourke, and when I am not talking to interesting people about interesting things, I'm a cyber liability consultant for an insurance brokerage firm headquartered in New York City. Stephanie, tell the good folks who you are and what you do.
Sure. Stephanie Roden. I'm the owner of Roden Legal PC, which is a law firm for healthcare practitioners. I basically take care of the business management of their practices and careers, from graduating residency, fellowship, to the point of retirement, and everything in between. And I only work with healthcare. So
excellent. And you're very good at it, because we've worked together on a number of clients. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Before we were major podcast stars, we actually did work together. And attended concerts together, and no movies yet, but still working on that one. Anyway,
I can't even tell you the last time I was in a movie theater, by the way.
So the last time I was in a movie theater was just last year, and I went to see, it wasn't memorable enough. I don't know what I went to see.
Huh.
Yeah, so the last movie I watched was The Matrix Resurrections, and I am so glad I did not pay for that.
Yes, I have to agree with you. I saw that and I was very happy I didn't pay for it. I just remember what my last movie was.
Oh,
it
go
was
for it.
The Rush, the uncut director version of Rush, which was a couple months ago. And the last movie before that was The Rush regular version, right before COVID. And then before that, I have no idea.
So I did. You and I saw the same movie, The Rush uncut, the director's cut version, but I saw one subsequent to that, and that's the one I can't remember. So I do plan, though. I want to see Sing 2, because I'm a big animated fan and I like the first Sing.
Yeah,
I was going to watch it on demand, but it's $25 on demand. So I figured it'd be cheaper to go to the movie theater and see it. So I think that's what I'm going to do at some point. Considering the NFL playoffs are this weekend, it will not be this weekend. So, okay. So we are here to talk about, and this one's not a top 10, this one's a top 5 of our favorite science fiction media, because this goes across the board. It could be anything. It could be a radio show, it could be a book, a TV, a movie, doesn't matter. But it has to be science fiction. However, we left the rules up as to what constitutes science fiction to each other. So there is no standard definition. We didn't go and Google it and whatnot. We just got to pick it ourselves. So before I hit record, you and I were talking about, though, how we set the parameters around how we built our lists.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell the folks what your sort of rules were, and then I'll tell them what mine were?
Sure. So the first rule was anything that I have previously recorded with you as a top 10 TV show was automatically not allowed to be on this list because
Okay.
I wanted it to be something different. They are, mentioned in the sense where I will bring them up after we complete our list,
Right.
just to remind people, but they're not in the top 5. And for me, there are a lot of franchises that I happen to like, and I could not pick just one of them. So
Sure.
and you will see that I mention them, but I will mention particular aspects of the franchise that I, really truly related to. So it's not necessarily all of it, but it's the concept.
Gotcha. Okay. That's fair
but-
enough. That works.
But for me, I had to limit it honestly to movies and TV shows because I couldn't, I 5 was just too little. I couldn't,
Right.
I couldn't put enough
Yeah.
in there. So I, for myself, only limited it to, that genre, like that medium.
Okay.
The TV concept. So, but yeah.
Okay. So I was similar to you in that, and we didn't talk about how we were setting the parameters.
Yeah.
But I was similar to you, except I extended it. Any show that I had been on that I had mentioned, either movies, TVs, books, or what have you, those are out. And I'll tell you what they are, because they're really only TV and a book. Yeah. From my top 5 list. So I couldn't have any duplicates from any other episode I had been on, whether it's my show, your show, or somebody else's show. When it came to the franchises, I decided not to pick the franchise because I don't know if I only wanted to pick either one, the best one of that.
Right.
Even if I like the whole franchise, I only picked the sort of the best one. And my final rule was I had to have one book, one movie, one TV show, and then the other 2 could be anything, but I had to have one of each. So that was my deal. I think the way we're going to do it is we're going to name our top 5, and then we're going to each get an honorable mention and a wild card.
Okay.
And the honorable mention and a wild card could be anything. And so, and I don't know about you, I didn't put mine in sort of the top 5 list. I just, in terms of 1 through 5, I just threw the 5 in there that I wanted to
Yeah,
put.
it's not necessarily in like my absolute favorite
Yep,
order. I
yep.
mean, sort of, but not really. So it's just, these are the top 5, like
Sure.
in whatever order.
Right.
So,
So let's just start with your first pick. How about that? Not number 1, but your first pick. What would that be? And I got to write it down, and I could only find a pencil. So
well, that's random. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
So my first one is the movie Looper from 2012
Excellent choice.
with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis.
Excellent
I have
choice.
watched that movie a number of times. I have
Mhm.
made sure that friends, relatives, and whoever else have watched it. There's something about that movie that I just absolutely loved. Just the concept of coming back in time, of the future versus the present. And it's so futuristic to begin with
Right.
of what their present is, that I just thought it was done so well. And I thought both of them played their parts like they were. You really believed that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was a young Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Like, they were really.
Oh, by the
good
way,
with it.
spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler
Oh,
alert.
sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
so,
Oops.
well, you had 10 years at this point to watch it, so.
Oh yeah,
uh,
that's true. So whatever.
Pox on you.
Sorry.
And I will tell you, one of the real things that I liked about that movie is I was good with the ending.
Yes.
There's
so
a
was
lot
I.
of time travel movies and a lot of movies of that genre to where the ending, I think, is just flubbed
Yep.
because either they couldn't figure it out, or they rushed it, or they changed it during production or whatever. I was good with that ending. So
Agreed.
uh,
Agreed.
I give you major props for starting off on a really strong foot.
Thank you.
Okay, so Looper, yeah, I agree. You got to see it. If you've never seen it, you got to see it.
And I'm
So-
sorry if I spoiled anything, but it's still worth the
yeah,
watch.
but that's incidental. You kind of know it right from the start. So
know you do,
that
so.
that doesn't give anything away. It's everything that happens during the movie that's really intriguing. So as everybody knows, I got my list, and I'm going to start with the book. And I'm not a huge sci-fi reader. I mean, I've done Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov. I love Blake Crouch. Michael Crichton is one of my favorite writers of all time, and what have you. But I wanted to go with something that is science fiction that in my lifetime could really become science fact. And so I went with The Martian by Andy Weir. And I
Okay.
went with the book version, even though the movie version's great. I
is
love
great.
the movie. In fact, I just watched the ending of it again not last night, but this past weekend. I'm flipping through. I see the last half an hour of Martian. I stopped. I watched.
Right.
But the book had so much more of the science in it. I mean, that famous line from the book and the movie, "I'm going to science the shit out of this," is just tremendous. But the book even has more of the science, and that's what made it so fun for me, is listening or reading all that he had to do, and why certain things are the way they are, so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
so for my
It
book
was a
choice,
great movie.
oh yeah. Yeah, I give them props. They really did it a real justice. But from just the book standpoint, I could have gone with so many of Arthur C. Clarke's or Isaac Asimov's, but I wanted to go with something that I think is more relatable to a lot of people. So
Yep.
that's The Martian by Andy Weir.
Excellent. Good choice.
Thank you. Thank you very
You're
much. Okay, pick number 2.
Okay, pick number 2 is the newer version of the TV show Doctor Who.
Okay, so newer version starting with Eccleston, or
Yes.
okay,
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's not the one from the 60s. I actually never watched that and always
Right.
wanted to, but there's like 30 seasons. It's some
Right.
ridiculous number.
yeah,
And then they re-released a more modern,
Yep.
what was it, like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, maybe even a little bit
oh,
more.
I
at this
think
point.
it's like 10 years ago at this point,
Oh,
I
is it
think,
10 years ago?
yeah,
And so I started watching it, and what really made it for me was David Tennant.
oh,
Because
yes,
I love him.
yes,
Everything about him. He wasn't in the first season of the remake. He
right,
was in like the 4 or 5 seasons after that. And I was just hooked because I loved him, and I didn't realize how much I loved Doctor Who. And it was a huge surprise for me. So I really I just love it. And I love that there's now a female, the first
Yes.
time ever. I mean, it's been a couple of seasons now, but I love
Right.
that they did that. So
well,
um,
and this is her last season, so it'll be interesting to see who she evolves into.
Yep.
And I will tell you, the thing that hooked me about the David Tennant version was
Yeah.
his relationship with Rose.
oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
I really thought that was because he's not supposed to be human, but I really thought there was a lot of humanity in him with
Yep.
that relationship. And when it ended, you could see something in him broke.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they really followed it up well enough. He just sort of kept going on, but it was really, that was one of my favorite parts of the reboot
Yeah.
portion, was just that relationship between the two of them.
Yep. And I would say for the David Tennant concept, the last episode before he turns,
Mhm.
is my absolute favorite episode ever because of what they did. And I'm not going to do the spoiler this
Right.
time.
That,
However,
that one definitely don't spoil
but I literally, that was the episode that I absolutely fell in love with David Tennant. I loved
Yeah.
everything that he did. He was just phenomenal in that role.
And he's phenomenal in everything.
Oh, he's great.
He's great.
I love
And
him.
mad props to Matt Smith because he
Oh,
followed
absolutely.
Tennant and he did a really good job. So
He did, and I hated him at first because I was so in love with
Right.
David
Right.
that when Matt Smith came on, I was like, ugh. And then like I had to rewatch it, and I was like, no, he's actually really good.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I really then enjoyed watching him.
Yeah.
know? And the same thing happened when the other guy, who I forgot the actor's name, the older guy, took over for Matt Smith.
Right. Yeah,
I can't remember his name
I
right now.
know.
I
Oh
didn't
God.
like him, but I grew to like
Right,
him after a while. Like I don't, because I get so accustomed to who they are, and I think that's the whole point.
And that's the beauty of the show.
Yeah.
Really the beauty of the show. And
So-
it's just on a quick side note, and we're not going down the rabbit hole here. There's a book, and it was made into 2 seasons of a TV series on Netflix called Altered Carbon. And basically the premise is that you can download your consciousness and yourself into a disc and then insert yourself into a new body.
Oh my God.
But what the book explored it, I think, much better than the TV show did. They just assumed that it was okay. Like so you're now in a new body, but you're the
Right.
same person. And I thought, no, that's not the way humans work.
Right.
Especially when we look at things. And to your point, you didn't like Matt Smith because you love David Tennant. Well, part of that is because your emotional connection is part of your visual cortex.
Yes, exactly.
Reacting. And so it's an interesting concept. Unfortunately, they didn't explore it, I think, well enough. So,
Yeah.
but that's just me. Okay. So I'm going to go to the movie next. This is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi movies. It's considered the best in this series of movies and whatnot. And no, it is not Empire Strikes Back, because Empire Strikes Back I've used elsewhere. This is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. This is, when I saw it, it was phenomenal. And spoiler alert, you've had 40 years to watch it, so I'm not worried about it. When Spock dies, I was flabbergasted. I mean, I just thought, you just killed Spock. And what? And so it was without a doubt. And then the eulogy that Kirk gives at the end before they blast Spock to the Genesis planet, still to this day makes me tear up. I know it by heart. I could recite it and what have you. Still to this day, when you hear, it's the one time Shatner sort of pause thing where he chokes up and what have you, gets me all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely gets me all the time. But the whole movie, I mean, Ricardo Montalban was just phenomenal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
He was
And-
amazing. Do you remember the part with the squiggly thing that would go inside the
The
ear
ear.
and the helmet? And
Mhm.
oh my God.
I mean, that freaked me out.
it
I still
freaked me
get
out.
freaked. I still get freaked out when things are flying by my ear just because of those scenes and whatnot.
Oh, it was a great movie.
Yeah.
I can't argue with you.
So, I mean, I have it on DVD. That's how much I loved it and whatnot. But, and that's why I was really disappointed with the reboot, Star Trek reboot with Chris Pine as Kirk, because I really liked the first one. And then they basically brought this Khan storyline back in the second one and repeated the whole thing.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, come on, you could have done, why try to copy something that was so revered and whatnot, that you could have just done something different. But
Yep.
that's neither here nor there. I still like the reboot a little bit. Okay, so that's my movie. So now we're going to go to your pick 3.
Okay, so my pick 3 is one of the franchises.
Okay.
And because I love the main guy of Patrick Stewart, I had to pick X-Men. Now, there are a ton of movies that include a reboot of the First Class, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
of them. There's also Wolverine, of going into more detail, and there's movies that bring old and new together with Halle Berry, you know, Hugh Jackman, you know, Patrick Stewart, and then you have everyone. You know, there's what's his name? Oh my God, I'm totally blanking on their names. Well, regardless, I love the whole thing. I actually just rewatched all of the movies in chronological order
Wow.
in December and absolutely loved it. I loved it. And I was
Well,
reading
wait.
articles.
Chronological order in their release date, or
Nope.
chronological order in the way the movies sort of
In the-
lead up?
in the
Okay.
way the movies are supposed to go. And there was
Kudos
a lot
on
of
that.
articles. There's a lot of articles on this because I was having a hard time with the timeline
Right.
because of things that happened. And so then
Yep.
I started to read articles about it, and other people were saying this, but they're like, but this is how you can rationalize it. So it actually does work. And that, as I was reading the articles, I was going, oh my God, that's so true. And it just
Right.
sort of put it all together for me. And like, I know some of the movies didn't do so well. Like I know Dark Phoenix didn't do so well,
Yeah.
but like when I'm rewatching it, especially in the timeline to know like what happened to Jean Grey, I
Right.
gotta say, I actually liked it more in that concept as opposed to a movie just sitting on its own. Like when you're looking at it in the franchise together with all the movies before it and then the movies afterwards,
Sure.
you really sort of understand it, and it definitely makes it a little bit better. So it was hard for me to pick one, which is why I have it here, because it was just too difficult, but I do just love that entire concept. I love the
I like that. I like it. I do have to say, Logan, without a doubt, I think is one of the best sort of put a cap on a movie franchise or
Yeah.
franchise character
Mhm.
that there's ever been.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a good movie, and it is so bittersweet and so tough to watch, especially the way Patrick Stewart plays Professor X. So it really is a great franchise, and I think they've done it. You can't ever do the entire comic book series, but at least they've done it justice. So
Yeah,
I'll give them that.
I think so also. So it had to be on my list. There's no way
Okay.
that wasn't gonna make it.
I like that. That's a good call. That's actually surprising for me. So, because you and I never talked about sort of the comic bookish movies
No.
and whatnot. So that one gets me. All right, good. See, I don't know everything about you when it comes to pop culture. I'm liking that. I'm
Well,
liking
I
that.
mean, and the thing is, it's like it's comic book, but it is sci-fi.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
it is definitely
Yeah.
futuristic. So,
Yeah.
you know, of technology and everything else. So like I was like, does it fit? And I'm like, no, it fits. Even if it is comic, it does
Sure.
fit. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. We left the definition of sci-fi up to ourselves and whatnot.
Yeah.
So as long as it fits in your parameters, that's all that matters. And then
Yep.
hopefully people in the comment section try to keep it clean, but we can argue what qualifies as sci-fi and whatnot. Okay, so your third pick is the X-Men movie franchise. I'm liking
Yep.
that. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my TV show. And it's one we actually mentioned on our episode, but it didn't make my top 10 of all time. It was close. And I think I mentioned it as being one of those ones just outside the top 10, but because I think that was one of the topics that sort of spurred this conversation about sci-fi. And so my TV show is Fringe. And it's with Joshua Jackson, John Noble, who I didn't realize. I mean, that was my introduction to John Noble. I mean, he's an Australian actor, I believe. But that was my introduction to him. And then watching him in subsequent things, I mean, you just realize how spectacular he is.
Yeah.
And then Anna Torv played the chief, the central FBI agent in it. But the first episode does no justice to how that show evolved in complexity in science, in relationships, in the whole thing, and even mental illness and whatnot. I mean, it just really became such a deep, deep show that you could only do with science fiction. Because if you tried to tackle all these topics in a straight ahead manner, most people would turn it off because either they're too hard or they're too sort of overwrought. But Fringe nailed it. I will say the last season was really rushed because they only got a few episodes to close it all out. So they didn't
Right.
get a chance to really explore everything. But still, to this day, one of my favorite TV series of all time, and my TV series to pick for sci-fi. So
Yeah, yeah. I think when we did the TV shows, it was both. We both had it as on the Fringe,
right,
which is sort of funny that it's called the Fringe.
excellent punch,
Yeah,
excellent pun.
But I have to agree. I loved it. It didn't make my top 5 here, but I did love that series. I thought
Yeah.
it was done really well. I didn't watch it live. I actually got into it after the fact. And
Okay.
I think I started to watch it in like season 4 when it was still on. So I had to do a catch up. And I
Right.
was so happy that I did the catch up. It was so worth it. So, and it was just great.
So it's one of those shows that I've watched twice through. And I think it's time for me to go back and find wherever I can find it and watch it again. But part of the problem is that there's so much good content out there. Sometimes you feel bad going back and watching something you've already watched. But this is one of those that I think I'm going to sacrifice some hours
Yeah.
to actually do again.
Yeah. No, it was a good show. I liked that show.
Okay. All right. We're up to pick number 4.
All right. So again, this is something that was rebooted from a 1970s show to something, I forgot when this came out. I think this came out in the early 2000s, maybe. Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, excellent choice.
And the funny thing is I never watched the original because I think I was just too young. When I was really little, I just was not into the sci-fi as much as I was, like I say, starting like maybe early high school age.
Yeah.
Teenager. But I was too young with the original. And then I think I don't know what it was. I think I was looking for something to watch and I saw Battlestar Galactica and I was like, oh, let me check this out. I was hooked. I binged it. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times since. And I love the concept. I loved the technology. I loved the relationships. I just loved everything about it. I thought it was done really well.
I don't know if you could pick a reboot that was so utterly different from the original.
See, and I never watched the original, so I didn't know. But
yeah, because I'm older than you. I remember when the original came out, and what was really cool, and it came out around the same time as Buck Rogers did. And so they were trying, and obviously this is all based on Star Wars and whatnot, trying to catch that wave.
Yep.
And I was more of a Buck Rogers guy, but and Battlestar, what I really liked in the original were the Cylons with the red light going back and forth. And so the Cylons in the reboot, much different.
Yeah.
And a much different structure. So good call, because Battlestar is still, there's another one I should go back and watch again. Because
The original or the reboot?
No, the reboot. The original, that was good, but the reboot was, again, as I said on Fringe, it was just so deep and kept touching on so many issues. I mean, Starbuck alone. Yeah, I mean, her whole character arc and what have you, that could have been the whole show. It was so good.
I just loved it. So
all right. Yep. I'm liking your picks. I'm liking your picks a lot. Okay, so now I'm going to get into my 2. They could be whatever, and I'll give everybody a preview. They're going to be movies. And the 5th one's a bit of a cheat, but not really. So my number 4 pick is a movie. It's a time travel movie. And I watch it every time it's on. If it's on regular TV, I'll put it on till the commercial, go watch something else, come back, and whatnot. I have a whole bunch of lines memorized and whatnot. It is Edge of Tomorrow with
Oh,
Tom
good one.
Cruise and Emily Blunt. It's Tom Cruise's best movie, even counting Mission Impossible and all the really good acting movies that he did before he just became an action hero. But I think there's some flaws with the end. I know there are flaws with the end, and because they created a Hollywood ending, but I think it is damn near a perfect sci-fi time travel movie. And all the times he wakes up and the character arc and how you see him just sort of decline emotionally, because he has to keep doing this and doing it and doing it. And he never thinks he's ever going to get out. And I just love that movie. I was so blown away. I went and saw it with really no big expectations. I thought it was just going to be another Tom Cruise action movie, and I was blown away. And to this day, I will watch it whenever it's on.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's a good movie. I remember when I went to go see it in the movies, like in the theater, I had no expectation. And I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan. I used to be way back in the day when he did like Risky Business or,
Sure.
But then
All the right moves.
Yeah, I lost it when he started to do Mission Impossible. I was like, just get over yourself. Like, there's something about him that just bothered me.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, he came out with a good movie. So there was Edge of Tomorrow, which I thought was great. Minority Report was another one that I loved by him. I thought that was done really well, which is why I saw Edge of Tomorrow, was because I loved Minority Report so much.
Sure.
So I have to agree. It was a good movie. I actually totally forgot about that movie. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah.
Because now I sort of want to go watch it again.
Oh, watch it. Seriously, watch it tonight.
Good movie.
Yeah. So Minority Report is on my outside list. The only reason it didn't make my top 5 is because of the ending. Hated the ending. So.
Oh, okay.
So, but we'll talk about that offline, or else we're going to be here forever talking about these various rabbit holes and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Okay, your fifth pick.
My fifth pick actually goes with your second pick, is the Star Trek franchise. I am a huge Trekkie. Now, it's not just the movies, it's also the TV shows, between the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Picard, Enterprise. I honestly love them all. The movies too. Wrath of Khan is my favorite of the original series movies. Yeah. And then First Contact is my favorite of the Next Generation movies. Yep. And I can't get enough of it. Honestly, like, I can watch them over and over again. I liked it so much that someone bought me a Star Trek Monopoly set.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's how much I loved Star Trek.
You know what? Now I want to have a game night just to play that.
I have to find it. I don't even know where the hell it is anymore, because I don't even know if I ever played it. So I gotta find it. But
that would be awesome, because there would be a fight to be over the Enterprise.
Oh God, yeah.
There. Yeah.
But it's just everything about that show, from the original series to Picard, that's on. I think the second season's coming out soon.
Soon, yeah.
The technology, the thought process, the fact that someone thought of all this, where some of it actually has come into existence from the time that they
yeah.
Like, I'm just waiting where I can, have a little flip and be like, beam me up or whatever. And like, you can just step in and you just sort of evaporate and you go wherever it is that you want to go. I would love to be transported somewhere. And I know at some point that will happen. I probably won't be alive, but
probably not, because we got to figure out how to break the laws of physics to make that happen. But
that's what I mean. So, I loved every step of it. Honestly, like, I can rewatch everything. There are some of the Next Generation episodes I have watched. I mean, multiple, quadruple. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of times that I've watched this. This is one of the reasons why I fell in love with Patrick Stewart, which got me to like X-Men, because of Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart, to me, he's a Shakespearean actor. I've seen him live on Broadway. I loved him in Star Trek. I've loved him in X-Men. Like, I think I like him in the commercials that he he did, for what is it, Uber Eats. I mean,
Right.
I think he's just amazing. And just that whole genre is just, I'm a huge Trekkie at heart.
And as am I, and it's kind of funny that I would prefer Trek over Star Wars, mostly because of the science.
Yeah.
And the stories are much more grounded. Yeah, they're more interesting to me. And now I didn't pick, I ruled out doing franchises as a totality, and I would pick one. But if I was doing that, I'd be right along with you. The whole Star Trek catalog is worth it.
Oh, it's fantastic. And oddly enough, and like, I've seen Star Wars, and a lot of people will be like, oh, Star Trek versus Star Wars or whatever. Star Wars didn't even make my outside list.
Yeah.
And I
it wouldn't for a lot of people.
I'm like, no, I mean, it's, it's fine, but Star Trek I just love it. Absolutely love it.
That's cool. Good. So now we have another thing in common.
Yeah.
So,
well, did you ever doubt that? I knew we were going to have something.
Yeah. But and you started off with one of my favorite time travel movies is Looper as well. So, I mean, that's fantastic. Okay. So my fifth pick is, where I said I wouldn't pick the franchises, I didn't pick the whole franchise. I only picked the first two in the franchise.
Okay.
And this is Terminator 1 and 2. Okay. I'm only picking those two. I'm okay with Terminator 3 sometimes, depending on my mood, but not the rest of them. None of them. And so, but the first two, again, where you're talking damn near perfect, the first one was damn near perfect in terms of the grittiness and the sort of urban nature of LA and what have you. And most of it happens at night. There's only a few daytime scenes at all. And then when you get to the realization that Reese is John Connor's father, and then, the future creates the past and so on and so forth, which creates a future. It was awesome. And again, Terminator 2 might be the best action movie ever.
Terminator 2 was great.
Yeah. So, and I remember seeing that the girl that I saw that with was a friend of mine from college, Meredith Gronrus. And we saw it opening night. That was back when opening night really was Friday, and not a sneak peek on Thursday kind of deal. And we went, theater was packed. That opening scene where the Terminator comes out of the fire and the credits and what have you. I mean, it was incredible. So, so it's just the Terminator and Terminator 2, Judgment Day. So, those are the only two in the series. Occasionally I'll do Rise of the Machines, but only if there's nothing else on. If competitive paint drying isn't on, I'll do Rise of the Machines.
Yeah, so. I have to agree with you. And the first one, the Terminator, made my outside list. It almost made the top 5, almost, but it's there. It's on the outside list. But yeah, no, that was a great movie. I mean, first off, that movie came out in what, like 84? So I was 11. Not even probably, because I was born at the end of the year. So I was probably 10, and it had such an impact on me. And again, I think it was those, like that movie and like other things that I started to watch that really got me into sci-fi. Yeah. I loved that whole concept of what you were saying about, like, he was, Reese came back in time and he ended up being John's father. And like, I remember like, wait, and I remember like stopping myself going, wait,
and having to think about that.
Like,
yes.
It was like insane to me. And like the picture of her, when she was pregnant in the Jeep, and like that little Mexican kid, I think it was, because she was in Mexico. Yeah, she was driving to Mexico. So the little kid took a picture of her or whatever, and I was just like, oh my God, that was the picture that he had. I mean, the whole thing was just like, oh my God, it was great. I love those movies. So,
and first of all, Linda Hamilton.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Special call out to her the difference between the first Terminator and Terminator 2 or she and Ripley became my two,
Yeah,
sort of, forget Wonder Woman. There was Sarah Connor and there was Ripley, and
Yep.
that was it. And so it's they are two of the baddest asses on screen that you could ever imagine. So I want to make special call out to Linda Hamilton.
oh yeah, agreed, agreed.
Okay, so now you get an honorable mention and a wild card. And I'll let you do both of them before I do mine.
Oh boy, well, I'm not sure which one is which, quite honestly, so I'm just gonna say the two of them and you can
Yep.
determine.
That's fine. I'll throw them in.
So you said Riley, Alien, the first one.
Okay.
I mean, that almost made the list. Love that movie. That thing coming out of the stomach scared the shit out of me.
Yep.
Oh my God, it was horrible. And I'm sorry that I just cursed and I realized that we're.
Hey,
on,
I
but
cursed
just-
before, so.
But my God, I just loved that movie. And then maybe that's the wild card. The honorable mention,
Okay.
going back to movies about time travel or actually it's not really time travel, but was the movie In Time with Justin Timberlake.
Was that the one,
basically-
I don't remember seeing that, but I remember, I know it was out. Was that the one that had a running clock in the corner or?
Well, it wasn't in the corner. They
Oh.
had it when they were born and they hit a certain age.
Oh,
they get
that's
a
right,
certain
that's right,
amount, And then
that's
they
right.
had to, do it. And so, and that's when you knew that you were going to die if you ran out of time. So that's why it's called In Time.
Oh, that's
And the
right. And it
whole
was on
point-
there was on their wrist. You could
Yep.
buy more time.
Yeah, and you can
Yes,
transfer
I remember.
or do
Yes.
like, whatever. And Amanda Seyfried was in it.
Right.
Justin Timberlake was in it. The woman that used to be in House played his mother, and you stopped aging at the age of 25. So everyone who was older looked young.
Right.
The concept was really, I thought, done really well. And I'm not a huge Justin Timberlake fan for his music, but I actually thought some of the movies that he's been in
Oh, yeah.
is actually really good.
Yeah.
And for some reason with that movie, it gets me every single time. So if it's ever on or I see it, I always have to watch it. I don't
And-
know why.
And there's like a central area that people only sort of the elite can get to, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
Right.
And
like,
they
there are
have
different-
access to all the time.
Right.
that
So
they
there's
want.
right. So it's basically dividing it up from like rich to poor, but
Poor,
you have to
yeah.
go through the different sections. And so they're at the farthest section
Right.
and they never worry about time because they have,
All the
hundreds of
time.
thousands of, minutes or what have you.
Right.
And that was the whole thing because she was the daughter of someone who had all of the time or whatever. And that's how the whole thing, I thought it was just done really well
Right.
because it shows like the system and the class and just the concept of living and bargaining and all this stuff in a very futuristic type of concept.
I'm going to have to go back and rewatch that, and I will let you know
Yeah.
my thoughts, because I know I saw it, but I can't put all the pieces together. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back and watch that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, I mean, there's
okay.
other ones. You mentioned one of the other ones on mine. I have to give another sort of honorable mention because you mentioned
Sure.
it before, was Buck Rogers. There's my
Oh,
favorite.
yeah.
There's
Well,
my favorite.
the-
And you mentioned him earlier, so
And people don't realize there was Buck Rogers the movie. Then they did Buck Rogers the TV show,
TV show.
and Gil Gerard was in both of them.
Yep.
And I'm gonna be honest, because I was a young kid, a young boy, and what have you. Seeing Aaron Gray in the very shiny one piece all the time did not hurt whatsoever.
I actually really liked it. I liked I can't think of his name, but the little,
Robot
yeah,
Tweaky.
Twinkie, right. I loved him.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see him, I can hear him, but I
Yep.
can't remember his name.
Tweaky,
So-
tweaky.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a great show, but it was fun.
Right. Well, that's
And-
why it didn't
yeah.
make the top 5.
Yes.
But I had to just, you brought him up earlier when you were talking
And
about
I'm
something
wondering-
else, so I just had to talk
You,
about it.
you know what? I'm wondering if I could find it. I wonder if it's somewhere on a streaming service. I'm going to have to go look
I'm
that up. You know
I'm
what?
Sure it is.
I'm going to make a note for myself so I don't forget. Okay. That I like that you brought that up. Okay. So my honorable mention is another movie. And it's actually a sci-fi comedy. And it's Galaxy Quest.
I thought about that one also. That's a great movie.
That is
It's a
such,
great movie.
it is so good. And the cast is just phenomenal.
It was Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub, Sam Rockwell,
Right.
Colin Tony, who played Veronica Mars's dad.
Right.
And he also played a tremendous bad guy on Person of Interest.
Right. I mean, it was a great
fantastic cast. But the movie itself, again, I think we were in Missouri seeing my wife's family and just decided to go see it. And just on a lark and what have you. And it's another one of those movies. If I see it on the screen, on the guide and what have you, I stop, I watch because it is just so good. So good.
That was a good movie. I liked that one. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in watching a movie with sci-fi.
Well, and I mean, one of my favorite parts of it is that Tony Shalhoub is just high the entire time.
Oh yeah.
And that look that he gives you and whatnot. So it was tremendous.
That's okay.
And then my wild card is actually a book. And it's a book from the 1970s, but I didn't read it until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something. And it's called The Forever War by John Haldeman. And not Haldeman of Watergate fame. This guy was a sci-fi author, not a political Machiavelli. The Forever War takes place in the future. Humanity is fighting an alien race within the solar system. But the reason why it's called the Forever War is that in order to be transported to all the various battlegrounds, you have to go super fast. Well, in going super fast, you start to run into time dilation, which is the faster you go, the slower time goes for you while remaining the same rate on Earth. And what's happening is that as these soldiers are fighting this war, hundreds of years are going by on Earth. And all things are changing and overpopulation. There's an interesting way he deals with overpopulation. I won't go into it. It probably was not as controversial as it might be now. But again, the science, basically it's a book about Einstein's general relativity and human nature and war and the costs of war on soldiers and what have you. And it's just such a good read that I wanted to bring it to people's attention because it's as relevant today as it would have been any time written in human history that people knew about general relativity. Because really, again, those topics that sci-fi can deal with that people don't get turned off, I think that is one of the perfect examples. And I love that book.
All right, I'm going to have to read that. I've actually never heard of it.
Yeah, it is so good. 1975, I think it was, or 74. Anyway, it won a bunch of awards and what have you. It was published in 74, 75, but it's really a good book. And it really makes you stop and think that, wow, nothing has changed. Yeah. Really nothing has changed. And so, which after you read the book, maybe you don't want to read the book because you don't want to be depressed thinking that nothing's changed, but that's just the nature of it. So that's my wild card.
All right, I'm going to have to put that on my list.
So quickly, I'm going to tell you the items that didn't make the list that would have if I hadn't put them on other lists. And you know some of these because you were on the episode. So the TV shows that didn't make the list: The Expanse, The $6 Million Man, and Firefly. All three sci-fi shows, in my opinion. And all three are some of my favorite, but they didn't make the list because I had them on elsewhere. And again, I mentioned this author before, and I picked one of his books on a previous episode I did of top 10 books, but Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park, which is just one of the most fun books I've ever read in my life. In fact, I read it in 2 days. In fact, I delayed going home after finals because I bought the book after my last final to read, started reading it. I was supposed to go home the next day, said, I'm not going home. I got to finish this book. And so I stayed another day in an empty dorm room, no sheets, no nothing, because everything was packed into the car, and to finish that book. And so my mother thought I was on drugs or what have you. But yeah, to be able to finish that book in 2 days, I stayed an extra day. So no Jurassic Park on there.
Yeah, so mine that I didn't make this list because they were somewhere else was Quantum Leap,
Sure,
which I spoke
remember
about
that.
before for the top TV show. And I had mentioned during that show, that episode of Us, Black Mirror. So I didn't want to bring it up again. So those were the two that I still highly recommend. I still love them both. Black Mirror, every episode is completely different and valid and true to today.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I watch those episodes over and over and over again, especially if I can't find something to do. So
Actually, you made mention of that. I'm going to put it on there to go back and watch those.
Yeah.
Because I haven't watched them since the last episodes aired, and I should go back and just rewatch them and enjoy them again.
I think a new season's coming out also.
That's the rumor that I hear, but I have not seen anything. So
neither have I, but I've heard that it's supposed to. So
yeah, apparently you and I have been working too much and not being able to keep up on this. Hey, you know what? I'm going to cheat real quick because it's my show. There's one other movie I want to tell people about that they should go see. Well, they should find it somewhere. Buckaroo Banzai. If you've never seen Buckaroo Banzai, oh my God.
Buckaroo Banzai.
Banzai. Go find it. I'm not even going to give you any hint or what have you. It's just bat shit crazy.
All right.
It's great. It's just really talk about fun and over the top and what have you. All future. I forget what century it takes place, but I mean it's just all sorts of crazy. So check out Buckaroo Banzai, and for TV, Twilight Zone. So the original Twilight Zone, Twilight Zone. That those are beyond compare in certain sense. Hey, we made another episode.
We did. Thank you.
Yeah,
I love doing these. They're so much fun.
Yeah,
and they get me thinking about my childhood and thinking about just time. And then when I hear your list, I'm like, no, I got to go back and watch this. So I just love it. So
and we were both saying how hard this was. One, because we lifted to top 5, but two, once you start digging into it, I work on these episodes, these top of episodes, probably more than I work on all my other episodes in terms of the research and doing it, and what have you. Yeah. And it's you get sucked down a time loop, and I wake up and it's a week before I have to have my list ready. I said, so.
No, this was not an easy one. This was very difficult.
Yeah.
So,
but that means there's some good stuff, people. So go, if you've not seen them, if you've not heard of them, go find them. Go do yourself a favor, indoctrinate yourself into the sci-fi pop culture lexicon.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you. This is great. Anytime.
Hey,
any other topics? I'm more than happy to come on.
We'll figure it out. But I just want to let people know Stephanie's got her own podcast, of which I've been on. And you're going to see the link down below, somewhere down there. It's farther down than just below, but it's farther down. Go to the episode notes. You're going to see a link to Stephanie's podcast. Make sure you go check it out. She does a really good job, and it's a fun time. I was actually on one of the episodes. So your first episode should release before this releases, but if not, just bookmark the link so that you can check it out.
Yep, and because of the amount of times I've been on your podcast, you were the first interview to get released online. So there
I
you
already
go.
knew that, so I don't know why I'm reacting like that. So,
Yeah,
but I'm
still,
honored.
so-
I was honored to
so-
do that.
So the first one, it's fun. We had a blast doing it.
Another ridiculously hard list.
Oh my God, that was impossible.
yeah.
It was another top 5.
In
So,
fact,
guys-
even before we hit record on this, we brought up a concert that
You know?
I loved, and I didn't make the list, and I said I was
Yeah.
annoyed with myself.
That was fun. So the podcast is called Speaking with Steph. It's very easy to remember, but you'll see the link. You should definitely check it out. Sean's top 5 is fantastic. So you guys got to listen to it. It was great and
Yeah.
so much fun.
That was good. Okay, folks, that's it. If you've got questions or comments, or you want to give us your own top 5 with honorable mention and wild cards, you know where the comment section is below. If you would like to do me a solid, hit subscribe with the bell and give me a like on this episode, because, you know, we work hard on these and we want some validation. We don't need a lot, just a little validation to keep us going. But I hope you had as good a time as we did. Stephanie, thank you again. You're a natural at these, and I can't wait to see future episodes of your podcast. So everybody make sure you hit subscribe when you start listening to Steph.
Thanks.
Because she's going to have some interesting folks on as well. And for everybody who's tuned in, you've been watching Did You Know That? ? Be sure to hit subscribe and the bell, and when new content comes, you'll get notified, and then you can watch at your leisure. So for Stephanie Roden, my name is Sean O'Rourke. For all of you out there in the ether, you take care and be well, and I'll see you next time.